I still remember that morning. The air was cool, quiet, and a little unsure. The kind of morning that doesn't yet know what it wants to become. My alarm rang at 6:30, a sound that once belonged to another life. Back then, it meant movement, responsibility, purpose. Now it felt like a distant echo, calling me back to something I wasn't sure I missed. I lay there for a moment, listening to the silence that used to feel empty but now felt full. Full of small things. The hum of the fridge, the soft breath of the world outside, the steady rhythm of my own heartbeat. 2 years ago, that silence had frightened me. Now it was the only thing that made sense. I got up, made coffee, and stood by the window. The city outside was slowly waking. Cars humming, streetlights fading, people moving in familiar patterns. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same anymore. The world had changed, and somehow, so had I. When we worked from home, life slowed down. The boundaries between who we were and what we did blurred. At first it was chaos, meetings from the kitchen table, children's laughter bleeding into conference calls, Wi-Fi that refused to cooperate. But in that chaos, there was honesty. We worked not to impress, but to stay connected. We showed up not perfectly dressed, but fully human. And then one day it happened. The email. The subject line was simple: return to office update. It was polite, it was short, and it was final. Starting next week, all employees are required to return to the office. I must have read that line 5 times. It wasn't the words that hurt, it was the weight they carried. The quiet reminder that freedom had an expiration date. That night I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about the mornings I used to rush, how I'd throw on clothes, swallow coffee, and chase time like it owed me something. I used to call that routine normal. Now it felt like surrender. Monday came. The road to the office looked exactly as I remembered. Long, gray, predictable. The same billboards, the same traffic lights, the same feeling of being caught in motion but going nowhere. I parked, took a deep breath, and walked through the glass doors. The lobby smelled faintly of disinfectant and nostalgia. People smiled politely, each of us pretending we were glad to be back. But behind the smiles there was something else. Uncertainty, maybe even grief. When I reached my desk, everything was just as I'd left it. The photo frame, the notebook, the empty mug that once held 1,000 hurried coffees. I sat down, opened my laptop, and joined my first meeting. It was on Zoom, with people who were sitting just 1 floor above me. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. There I was, surrounded by people, yet somehow lonelier than I'd ever been working from home. The conversations were the same, polite, professional, rehearsed. But the warmth, the connection, the sense of shared humanity, it was gone. Days turned into weeks. We adjusted, or at least pretended to. We filled our schedules, replied to emails, and convinced ourselves that being present was the same as being alive. But I knew it wasn't. At home, I had learned to listen, not just to others, but to myself. I knew what peace sounded like, and this wasn't it. One evening, I stayed behind after everyone else had left. The office was quiet, washed in the soft yellow of the nightlights. I stood by the window watching the city below. 1,000 glowing windows, each one holding a life as complex and fragile as mine. And in that silence, something inside me whispered, "Is this really living?" I didn't know the answer, but I knew I couldn't keep running on autopilot, chasing a version of success that no longer fit who I was. That night, I wrote in my notebook, "Freedom isn't given, it's remembered." It became my quiet promise to myself. The next morning, I came in early. The building was still asleep, the halls dim, the air cold but clean. I made coffee, sat at my desk, and waited for the sun to rise. As light poured through the window, touching the corner of my screen, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Stillness. Maybe I couldn't change the system. Maybe I couldn't choose where to work, but I could choose how to be here, present, calm, honest. I decided then that if I had to return to this world, I would return differently, not as a performer, but as a participant, not to chase, but to understand. From that day on, I slowed down. I spoke less, listened more. I stopped rushing through lunch, stopped checking the clock every 5 minutes. Instead, I began noticing things. The pattern of sunlight on the floor, the rhythm of footsteps in the hall, the sound of rain against the glass. They were small things, but they felt real. And real felt good. Maybe peace isn't about where you are, but how you show up when you get there. That realization didn't fix everything, but it was a start, a small, quiet rebellion against the noise. The return to the office wasn't the end of freedom, it was the beginning of learning what freedom truly means. Over the next few weeks, something in me began to shift. Not all at once, not dramatically, just quietly, like the way light changes at the end of the day. The same office, the same meetings, the same polite conversations. But I was starting to see them differently. One morning, while standing by the window with my coffee, I watched the sunlight move slowly across the desks. It touched the keyboards, the chairs, the walls, simple, ordinary things that had been there all along. And for a moment, I wondered how many days I'd spent here without really seeing any of it. When life moves too fast, you start to live on the surface of things. You forget to feel them. But when everything slows down, even unwillingly, you begin to notice the small truths that hold your world together. That day, I realized I didn't hate my job. What I hated was who I had become while doing it. Always rushing, always proving, always chasing something that kept moving just out of reach. So I decided to start small. Instead of filling my mornings with emails, I took 5 minutes to breathe. Not meditation, not mindfulness, just breathing. Letting the air remind me that I was still alive, still human. And slowly the noise began to fade. The anxiety, the pressure, the invisible need to perform, all softened like dust settling after a storm. I started talking to people again, not about work, but about life, how they were sleeping, what they were reading, what made them laugh lately. The answers were simple, sometimes clumsy, sometimes sad, but they were real. And real is the one thing this world keeps forgetting to be. One afternoon, I had a conversation with a coworker I barely knew. He said something that stayed with me. I think we forgot that work used to be a part of life, not the whole of it. I nodded, and for a moment, we both just sat there, watching the clock without really caring what time it was. In the weeks that followed, I began to understand something deeper. Peace doesn't mean the absence of struggle. It means learning how to exist within it, to move through the noise without letting it define you. There was one day I remember vividly. The office was tense, deadlines stacked, everyone on edge. I could feel the weight of pressure hanging in the air like humidity before a storm. Normally, I would have joined the chaos, typing faster, speaking louder, letting panic become my rhythm. But that day, I didn't. Instead, I stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city. The sky was overcast, clouds heavy but unmoving. And I realized storms don't always need to be fought. Sometimes they just need to be waited out. So I waited, and when I turned back to my desk, I worked quietly, calmly, one task at a time. No rush, no fear. By the end of the day, everything was done. Not perfectly, not quickly, but peacefully. That evening, as I walked to my car, I felt lighter. Not because the work was easier, but because I was. I was no longer fighting every moment. I was flowing with it. And that changed everything. Over time, I noticed others changing too. A coworker who used to avoid eye contact started smiling more. The manager who always sent long emails began writing shorter, kinder ones. It wasn't magic. It was energy. When you bring calm into a space, it quietly invites others to breathe again. It reminded me of something my grandmother once said. You can't calm the storm, but you can calm yourself, and the storm will pass around you. Maybe peace is contagious, I thought. Maybe that's how it spreads. One quiet person at a time. I started keeping a small notebook again, not for tasks or meetings, but for thoughts. Little reminders I didn't want to forget. One page said, "Don't rush meaning. It comes when you're still enough to hear it." Another said, "Do the work, but don't become the work." Those words became anchors for me, Whenever I felt lost, I read them. They reminded me that purpose doesn't come from productivity, it comes from presence. And slowly, something else began to happen. Gratitude. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. It's not the loud "I'm thankful" we post online. It's the quiet kind that just makes you breathe easier. I began to appreciate the tiny moments that never make it into performance reviews. The warmth of a mug between my hands, the sound of laughter from a few desks away, the way sunlight faded into gold near the end of the day. It wasn't about pretending everything was fine. It was about seeing that maybe it already was, in its own imperfect way. One Friday evening, as I left the building, I caught my reflection in the glass door. I looked calm, older maybe, softer, definitely. And I realized peace had been waiting for me all along. It wasn't hiding in vacations or weekends or dreams of a different life. It was right here, in this ordinary one. Maybe that's the turning point, not when things change, but when you do. Months passed, the seasons changed, though the office barely noticed. The same desks, the same fluorescent lights, the same echo of footsteps on tile floors. But something in me was different. The noise of it all no longer reached me the same way. It washed over me and faded, like waves against a stone that had finally learned how to stay still. The world outside kept moving faster. New tools, new expectations, new metrics to measure the same old things. But inside, I had slowed down, not out of laziness or defiance, but out of choice. I was learning to live at the pace of peace. It's strange how invisible that kind of change is. You don't wake up one morning enlightened, you just stop feeling pulled in every direction. The same problems still exist, but they don't own you anymore. One day, a younger colleague stopped by my desk. He looked tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the kind that sits behind your eyes and makes the world feel heavy. He asked me quietly, "How do you do it? You never seem stressed." I smiled. "I still get stressed," I said. "I just don't let it drive." He nodded, unsure what that meant. And that was okay. Some lessons can't be told. They have to be lived. After he left, I thought about how many years I had spent chasing peace as if it were a destination. Something to earn, something to arrive at. But peace doesn't live in the future. It lives in presence, in the willingness to stop running long enough to feel the ground beneath your feet. That night, I took a walk through the city after work. The air was cool, carrying the smell of rain and streetlights. People hurried past me, phones in hand, eyes elsewhere. I used to be one of them, always in a rush to be somewhere else, to become someone else. Now I just walked, slowly, breathing in the world that I used to ignore. The sound of cars on wet pavement, the laughter from a cafe, the way wind caught my jacket. Small things, but they made me feel alive. I passed by the same park I used to cut through years ago. This time I stopped and sat on a bench. There was a man feeding pigeons, a child chasing after them, her laughter echoing across the quiet street. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel separate from it all. I felt part of it. That was the moment I understood. Freedom isn't about escape. It's about belonging. Belonging to the moment you're in, without wishing it were different. At work, I started bringing that same stillness with me. When meetings grew tense, I breathed. When others argued, I listened. When mistakes happened, I forgave. Myself first, then others. And people noticed. They didn't say much, but I could feel it. The energy shifting. The same way light changes when a cloud moves aside. One day someone told me, "You make this place feel calmer." That was the greatest compliment I've ever received, because peace doesn't spread through noise. It spreads through presence. Over time, I began to write again. Not for anyone else, just for me. Thoughts, reflections, fragments of gratitude. Some days I wrote only one line. One of them said, "Maybe purpose isn't found in doing great things, but in doing small things with great calm." Another said, "Freedom begins the moment you stop arguing with what is." I didn't share them. They were reminders, little lanterns to keep me steady when the days grew heavy again. And they do, because even peace has its seasons. There are still mornings when I wake up tired, still weeks when I lose my balance. But now I know how to find my way back. It's simple. I stop, I breathe, I remember. I remember that peace isn't a reward, it's a rhythm. And every time I return to it, I return to myself. Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if we had never gone through those quiet years at home, if we had never been forced to slow down. Maybe I would still be rushing, still measuring my worth in deadlines and deliverables. But the pause changed me. It taught me that silence is not emptiness, it's awareness. We spend so much of our lives trying to be productive that we forget how to be present. But the truth is, presence produces more than pressure ever could. Now I no longer look for freedom outside myself. I carry it in the way I move, the way I listen, the way I choose to see the world. There's a kind of quiet that doesn't need words, the kind that lives in your chest when you finally make peace with the way things are. That's the quiet I've found. That's the quiet I protect. Sometimes when I leave the office late, I pause by the window and look out at the city again. The lights still burn, the cars still move, the world still rushes, but inside I am still. I smile at that stillness, not because everything is perfect, but because I no longer need it to be. I've stopped chasing meaning like a finish line. I've started living it one slow, deliberate breath at a time. And when people ask me if I'm happy now, I tell them the truth. I'm peaceful, and that's better. Maybe that's what freedom really is. Not the ability to go anywhere, but the peace to be anywhere and still feel whole. So tonight as I walk home, the streets hum softly beneath the glow of the lamps. I take one last deep breath and whisper to myself, this is enough. I am enough. Because true freedom doesn't shout, it doesn't fight. It simply stays, quiet, steady, and kind. And maybe that's all we're ever meant to be. Quiet souls, learning how to live gently in a world that never stops moving. After a while, peace stops being something you think about. It just becomes how you move. The days still come with noise, expectations, and the occasional wave of chaos, but it all passes through you differently. You don't fight it. You don't chase it. You simply allow it to exist without letting it consume you. I began to notice this quiet change most clearly when I was home. Before, even after leaving work, my mind would stay there, running reports in the background, analyzing conversations, planning responses for problems that hadn't even happened yet. But now when I closed my laptop, I truly left. The work stayed where it belonged. I gave myself permission to return home, not just in body but in spirit. Dinner time used to be a blur. I'd eat while checking messages, half listening to whoever was speaking. Now I light a small candle before I eat. It's a ritual of stillness. A reminder that this too is life. Not the meetings, not the deadlines, not the striving. This moment, right here, the taste of warm food, the sound of the fork against the plate, the quiet hum of evening. That's what living feels like. I started calling my parents more often, not out of guilt or duty, but out of gratitude. There was a time I thought love was something you had to express perfectly. Long calls, deep talks, meaningful words. Now I know it's simpler than that. Sometimes it's just showing up. A 5-minute call, a text that says, thinking of you. The small things we postpone are the ones we miss most when time takes them away. There's a gentleness that comes when you slow down long enough to notice the people around you. The barista who remembers your order. The neighbor who waves every morning. The stranger who holds the door. Tiny acts of grace, invisible threads that hold the world together. One Sunday afternoon, I met an old friend I hadn't seen since before the pandemic. We sat in a quiet cafe talking about everything and nothing. He told me he felt lost, that life seemed to be passing too quickly, that he no longer recognized the person in the mirror. I listened, and for the first time, I didn't try to fix it. I just said, "You're not broken, you're just tired, and that's okay." He looked at me, eyes softening. "How did you stop feeling tired?" "I didn't," I said with a smile. "I just stopped fighting it." There was a long pause. Then he laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from recognition, not amusement. And in that moment, I realized how healing it can be to simply understand someone without trying to change them. We talked until the sun went down. No grand conclusions, no advice exchanged, just presence. And maybe that's what true connection is, being fully there, without needing to solve or prove anything. As weeks passed, I carried that same energy into every part of my life. Even the mundane became sacred. Folding laundry, washing dishes, watering the plants. Each action became a meditation in motion, a way to remind myself that peace doesn't depend on circumstance. It depends on attention. One night, while cleaning up after dinner, I looked out the window and saw the city glowing under a soft drizzle. The world looked both fragile and endless at once. I thought about how much had changed and how much hadn't. The buildings stood where they always had. The traffic lights still blinked their steady rhythm. And yet, within me, something entirely new had taken root. A kind of stillness that no change could disturb. That night I wrote in my notebook, "Peace is not what happens when life calms down. It's what happens when you do." And I knew it was true because even in the busiest moments, even when life demanded more than I could give, there was a quiet space inside me that stayed untouched. Like the eye of a storm, not escaping the world, but existing peacefully within it. Maybe that's what it means to return home. Not to a place, but to a state of being, where you no longer need everything to make sense in order to feel whole. Time has a way of teaching quietly. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't arrive with answers. It just keeps moving, steady and patient, until one day you realize how much you've learned simply by staying present through it all. Months have turned into years since that first return to office email. The world has changed again, and so have I. The noise outside never really stopped. It just found new forms, new screens, new ways to demand attention. But I no longer confuse noise with importance. I've learned to hear the difference. Some mornings I still wake up before the alarm. I make coffee in silence, watch the sun crawl slowly over the edge of the buildings. It's a ritual now, not out of habit, but out of gratitude. The quiet feels different when you've earned it. At work, things still happen. Deadlines, conflicts, moments of pressure. But peace no longer leaves when tension arrives. It stays, a quiet companion sitting somewhere in the back of my mind, reminding me that I don't have to lose myself in every storm. People often talk about balance like it's something you find. I don't think that's true anymore. Balance isn't found, it's built. Moment by moment, breath by breath, through 1,000 small choices to stay kind, patient, and awake. There are days when I still get frustrated, when emails pile up, when conversations go in circles, when life feels heavy again. But even then, I know how to return. It's as simple as pausing, one deep breath, one slow exhale, and suddenly the noise softens. Not because the world has changed, but because I have. On weekends, I take walks to the park. There's an old oak tree there that I've grown fond of. It doesn't move fast, doesn't chase anything, doesn't fight the seasons. It just stands, steady, alive, and willing to begin again, no matter how many leaves it loses. Sometimes I think peace looks a lot like that tree. I sit beneath it, close my eyes, and listen. The wind rustling through the branches, the laughter of children somewhere nearby, the rhythm of life unfolding endlessly, beautifully, imperfectly. And in that sound, I feel time not as a thief, but as a teacher. Every breath, every season, every ending, a lesson in how to let go. I used to think peace meant control, mastering my emotions, fixing my flaws, getting everything right. Now I know peace means surrender, not giving up but giving in, to the flow of life as it is, not as I wish it to be. It took me years to understand this. Peace is not fragile. It doesn't vanish when life gets hard. It's what holds you together when everything else falls apart. When I look back now, I smile at who I used to be. The restless worker, the silent complainer, the one waiting for freedom to arrive like a reward. He was doing his best. He just didn't know that freedom had been with him all along, waiting patiently beneath the noise. These days, when I leave the office, I don't rush to the car anymore. I walk slowly, sometimes stopping to watch the sunset paint the glass towers in gold. The same buildings that once felt cold now look almost kind, touched by light in ways I never noticed before. There's a strange peace in realizing that the world hasn't changed, only how you see it has. I've stopped searching for purpose as if it were hidden somewhere out there. Now I find it in the smallest of things, in a kind word, in an honest effort, in the act of showing up fully to a single moment. And maybe that's what this whole journey has been about. Not returning to the office, but returning to myself. The place I'd abandoned while chasing everything else. I still keep that old notebook on my desk. The pages are filled with thoughts, reminders, fragments of gratitude. On the last page, I recently wrote, "Peace is not a place you reach, it's a way you walk." I think that's what I'll carry with me, wherever I go. Because no matter where life takes me, through noise or silence, through chaos or calm, stillness remains. It's there in every breath, in every pause, in every act of quiet awareness that says, I am here, I am alive, I am enough. And that, I've learned, is all the freedom I'll ever need. Life moves on as it always does. New projects begin, old ones end, people come and go. The city hums in the same steady rhythm, unaware of the quiet revolutions happening inside small, unseen hearts. And yet somehow everything feels softer now. The sharp edges of ambition, comparison, and fear have been worn smooth by time and by kindness. Some mornings when I walk to work, I still feel the rush around me, the hurried footsteps, the constant checking of phones, the low buzz of urgency that fills the air like static. But I move differently now. I walk slower. I breathe deeper. I notice the light spilling between the buildings, the way it paints gold on gray. It feels like the world whispering, "You're still here. Don't miss this." Maybe that's what healing really is. Learning to stay present without demanding that life be perfect. I've learned that peace is not something you guard by isolation. It's something you share by living gently among others. To be kind even when no one notices. To listen without needing to reply. To bring calm where noise has made a home. The more I live this way, the more I understand how much power there is in gentleness. It doesn't shout, it doesn't fight, it simply stays. Steady, consistent, grounded, like roots beneath a storm. Sometimes I visit the rooftop of our building. It's quiet there, only the wind, the city's faint heartbeat below, and the sky opening wide above me. From up there, I can see the tiny movements of life. Cars crossing lights, people walking with umbrellas, children running across the park. And in that view, I'm reminded how vast and connected it all is. How every story, even the quiet ones, matters. I think we spend the first half of our lives trying to be loud enough to matter, and the second half realizing that meaning was never about volume. It was about presence. The longer I live, the more I believe that stillness is not the opposite of movement. It's the awareness inside it. You can be in motion, walking, working, loving, living, and still be at peace. Because peace doesn't mean you stop. It means you know why you're moving. Sometimes people ask me if I ever miss the old life, the rush, the chase, the illusion of progress. I smile. No, I say, because I never really lost it. I just learned how to walk slower through it. There's beauty in growing older, not because of age, but because of perspective. You begin to see that life doesn't need to impress you anymore. It only asks that you pay attention. The small things, morning sunlight, laughter in the distance, the first sip of warm coffee, the quiet comfort of routine, they become holy. And maybe holiness isn't about perfection or purity. Maybe it's just about presence, showing up fully again and again, even when the world feels heavy. I've started writing letters to myself again. Not goals, not lists, just words I want to remember. One of them says, stay kind, stay slow, stay awake. Another says, you don't need a new life, you just need to notice the one you already have. Sometimes I read those letters aloud, quietly, as if speaking to someone I once was. Someone who tried so hard to earn what was already his. Peace. Now I know better. Peace doesn't ask to be earned. It only asks to be noticed. The long quiet of life isn't empty. It's where the echoes of meaning live. The sound of your own heart, steady and calm, reminding you that you're still here, still learning, still enough. I used to think stories needed endings, neat and clear. But now I see some stories aren't meant to end. They're meant to keep unfolding softly like breathing. So if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's this. You don't have to wait for life to slow down. You can choose to slow down inside it. You can choose peace again and again until it becomes your natural way of being. Because in the end, after the noise fades, after the rush quiets, after all the striving falls away, what remains is simple. You, breathing, still. And maybe that's the most beautiful thing about being alive. That no matter how far we go, no matter how much we change, stillness remains. The day ends slowly now. No rush, no noise, just the world dimming into quiet gold. I pack my things, close my laptop, and glance once more at the small note taped beside my monitor. Remember why you started. It makes me smile. Because now I finally know what that means. It's not about ambition or achievement. It's about returning, again and again, to what's real. As I step outside, the air is cool, carrying the scent of rain and evening light. The streets glow softly, reflections of amber and blue weaving across the pavement. Somewhere, a bus sighs. A child laughs. The city exhales with me, alive and calm at the same time. I walk slowly, letting the rhythm of my steps match the rhythm of my breath. No plans, no deadlines, just presence. A simple awareness that this, right now, is enough. The sky darkens to a gentle violet. Windows flicker on one by one, tiny constellations of ordinary lives. And in their light, I see something sacred. A quiet reminder that every life, no matter how small, carries its own warmth into the world. I stop for a moment, just to listen. To the hum of traffic, to the wind brushing the trees, to the silence between everything. And in that silence, I feel it again. The peace I used to chase now resting softly inside me. I take a deep breath and whisper, almost to the night itself, "Thank you." Not for anything grand, but simply for this. For being here, for stillness, for life. And as the last light fades, I walk home, quietly, gratefully, free.